As you can tell by the title of this video, I've put together a list of the top 10 pay-per-view draws in the professional wrestling industry in the 1990s. Well, only the American companies, I couldn't get hold of any Japanese figures, so I thought I'd just put a list of the top American draws at the time. Yeah, I did it because, you know, the 90s was a massive boom period for professional wrestling, especially in America with like WCW and WWE both so prominent at the time, and also you had like ECW, a third company, who had national exposure and international exposure, I suppose, at the time, because, you know, their shows got syndicated abroad towards the end of the 90s. So yeah, it was a very, you know, strong time for professional wrestling. So I thought I'd do this video so we could see who the key players were at the time who were pushing the wrestling industry forward. So at number 10 in my list is Kevin Nash. He main evented pay-per-views for both WWF and WCW in the 90s. You know, he had matches against guys like Bret Hart and The Undertaker, like your SummerSlams and your Survivor Series in the 95-96 time period. Then he jumped ship to WCW, where, you know, it really started the Monday Night Wars with him and Hall as the outsiders, you know, 96 to 99. So he only had 4 years, but in those 4 years he became Booker, so he gave himself a title run. You know, he was against Goldberg, Starrcade '88, where, you know, he was the first guy to beat Goldberg. So yeah, he drew he helped to draw big numbers for WCW, but that was just him putting himself on top and sort of jumping on other people's bandwagons. But still, he was a key player at the time, and he was important to the professional wrestling industry at the time. So yeah, at number 10 is Kevin Nash. Number 9 might be a surprising one, seeing as he only had about 4 years of being active in the 90s. Actually, I suppose he had about 5, but still, it's the Ultimate Warrior. He was main eventing at the start of the 90s, 98, 91, 92, like until he left WWF for the first time. You know, but like only 3 years, and at the time they only had 5 pay-per-views a year, so that was only 15 pay-per-views he had the chance to be on. But still, at the time they were drawing massive numbers. So that's really boosted Warrior up in my list of the top draws of all time, because I did the list and there's hundreds of people on the list, but I thought I'd only talk about the top 10 because they're the ones that matter. Yeah, so the Warrior, you know, you can't really complain because he did get massive numbers, but he wasn't great in the ring. So, you know, it's a bit of, you know, slapping him with one hand but shaking his hand with the other at the same time. You know, you want to congratulate him because he did do well, but at the same time he wasn't good in the ring. He was sort of entertaining for the casual fans, I suppose, but so he did his job. You know, he got the buy rates up. So yeah, and of course he went over to WCW and he had a few matches with Hogan again. You know, carrying on that trail of stuff they'd started in WWF with, you know, WrestleMania 6, where it was face against face, IC champ versus world champion. Warrior got the rub from Hogan. Number 8, Lex Luger. Now this guy, he was active all the way through the 90s, and it surprised me that he got so high on my list when I was looking at these pay-per-view numbers, because, you know, he never struck me as the kind of guy I'd want to see, but at the same time, you know, he was working for the 10 full years of the 90s, like 90 to 92 was in WCW, 92 to 95 in WWF, and then 95 to 99 back in WCW, and he was working on top throughout. You know, WWF gave him a run with the Lex Express sort of stuff. He was including the NWA Black and Red at the end of WCW. I was not too familiar with his the start of the 90s stuff with WCW because I didn't follow it at the time, but, you know, he's always been on top. So he's on at number 8, and at number 7, sort of the WWF's franchise player, really, in my opinion, is Shawn Michaels. He was there throughout the 90s in the WWF in one capacity or another. He was an active wrestler from 90 to 98. Then in 99 he was a commissioner. You know, he got to the main event in 1996, and he stayed there till 1998, and that's when they upped the level of number of pay-per-views from 5 to 10, or was it 8 at the time, I can't remember. But Shawn Michaels, you know, he was on all of those pay-per-views. When he got the title, he was on every single In Your House, the SummerSlam, the Survivor Series, and all these pay-per-views, but they weren't drawing massive numbers, so that's why he's not too high on my list, but still he is on number 7. Number 6 is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Started off in WCW in 1991, jumped ship to WWF, then in 1993 he lost the Lose Raw match because he was going back to WCW, where he stayed to the end of the 90s, you know. He was a massive player in the WWF when they brought him over straight into a main event push against Hogan. He was supposed to go against Hogan at WrestleMania 8, as we all I've heard the rumours, but it was changed. He ended up against Savage. But still, the main evented there was the key player at WCW before he left, and he was world champion when he left. And then when he went back, he was given the world title again. Then Hogan jumped ship to there, so they had that little feud again in WCW. He stayed there to the end of the 90s, where he was being misused a little bit, but still he was on top of the card for a few of those pay-per-views. Remember late 99 where David Flair, was it 99, 98, where David Flair turns on Rick and there's some cage match with Hogan. I remember that quite clearly. Oh, well, I might be making it up. Was it a cage match? Can't remember. But I remember he did it because he wanted to get off with Tori Wilson. Yeah. Anyway, number 5, The Undertaker, debuted in 1990 or 91 at the Survivor Series. I can't remember which one it was, but you know, he lasted all the way till 1999, and he's still there today. So yeah, he had 9 full years at least in the WWF, and he was main event throughout that time. You know, he took time off every now and then, and he drew decent numbers because the Undertaker, he's a figure that you want to see. He's a decent wrestler, and you know, he's got a great gimmick. So the casuals and the proper fans really get into his matches. So yeah, he comes in at number 5. Number 4, WCW's franchise player, their main man throughout the 90s, Sting. Never left for a single day. You know, he was working a part-time schedule. You know, I don't think he was working the house shows, but you know, he was on most night shows. Even though he didn't wrestle, he just stand in the rafters towards the end of the 90s. But yeah, world title runs throughout the 90s. Always on top of the card when he was featured. You know, when he was injury free and whatever. So yeah, he comes in at number 4. Next off, I'm getting into my top 3 now. Number 3 is Bret the Hitman Hart. You know, he got the first world title in 1992 at the WWF, and from that day till 1997, apart from from WrestleMania 9 up to King of the Ring 93, he was the main man in WWF with that world title. And if it wasn't for Hogan and the Yokozuna and stuff that took over from that time, there isn't really a time when Bret Hart wasn't on top. All the way up to his very last match, the Montreal Screwjob. Everyone knows the story now. If you don't, Wikipedia it. It's worth knowing because it's a really interesting story. And then obviously he went over to WCW. He was misused. They didn't use him as well as they could have. He still main evented, but that's when they were on the decline. So they're drawing okay numbers, but nothing great. But still, strong numbers. So it got up to number 3. Number 2, the guy who won the Monday Night Wars, in my opinion, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He only appeared in WWF, and he didn't appear in WWF until 1995. He was working WCW and ECW before then. WCW hadn't had pay-per-view at that time. WCW weren't featuring him too high up the card. They gave him a tag team run with Brian Pillman, the Hollywood Blondes, but that was about it. But yeah, Austin, world title run, drawing massive pay-per-view buy rates in WWE, but because it was only half a decade, he didn't really get the full benefit, to be the top guy in professional wrestling in the 90s. And I think everyone can guess who's coming up. The number 1 guy in professional wrestling, the guy who's drawn massive gates wherever he was in the 90s and in the 80s. It was Hulk Hogan. 1990 to 1993, he was drawing massive buy rates on pay-per-view for WWF. He was featured at the main event of every WrestleMania up until WrestleMania 9 when he wasn't, and then still he came in afterwards and won the world title, as I alluded to before. Him knocking Bret off the top babyface spot. And obviously he went to WCW. The NWO thing blew up in 1995-96, and he became a real key player again. He became relevant again. And full 10 years of being on top of every single card and on top of the top cards as well. Early 90s is probably when the WWF had their best buy rates. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were drawing really strong numbers back then. I think the Royal Rumbles were even drawing 6. It'd be a 6 in terms of ratings figures, which is quite a lot if you consider today. Television is 3.5 or whatever. So yeah, drawing massive numbers, and that is my list just to run off the top 10. Now before I go, number 10 is Kevin Nash, number 9 is the Ultimate Warrior, number 8 Lex Luger, 7 Shawn Michaels, 6 Ric Flair, 5 Undertaker, 4 Sting, 3 Bret Hart, 2 Steve Austin, and 1 Hulk Hogan. I'd love to know what you think of my list. If somebody wants to be as kind as to drop me a comment, subscribe if you like my vids, and keep watching. I'll be back soon.